Now, Russia and Turkey have struck a deal to create a buffer zone in northern Syria. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan talked with Vladimir Putin for more than 6 hours before announcing the agreement. It includes joint patrols and coordinated action with Syrian forces to remove Kurdish fighters from border areas. For more, Bloomberg's Turkey bureau chief Onur Ant joins us now from Istanbul. Onur, great to have you with us. Erdogan called this a historic deal. Give us a little bit more detail of what it entails.
Well, this deal complements an earlier agreement with the US, and what it basically did was to allow Vladimir Putin and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan to take back large chunks of Syrian territory that was until recently controlled by Kurdish forces once allied with the US. It allows, well, it certainly guarantees that Turkey will not expand its military operation outside a relatively narrow strip of Syrian territory that it seized over the past couple of weeks. And it also allows Turkey to push back Kurdish militants that it considers to be its enemies away from its borders without having to go through a much lengthier military campaign inside Syria.
So what does this mean for the US's position in all this? I mean, we had a tweet from President Trump saying the good news seems to be happening with respect to Turkey, Syria and the Middle East. Further reports to come later. But it seems like the US hasn't got a lot to do with this at all right now.
Well, clearly, U.S. troops, U.S. military is wrapping up its operations, so to speak, in Syria. And once that happens, that's completed, clearly there will be a void in Syria after the departure of U.S. troops. It looks like, with the sort of grand agreement that we're seeing taking place with different deals with both Turkey and Russia and U.S. over the past week, we're seeing that Russia and Turkey are trying to fill that void that will be there once U.S. troop withdrawal is in place.
Onur, there's a lot of niceties here. I got to be very careful how I ask this question, given that you are geographically in Istanbul, but I'm going to give it a go. Mr. Assad calls Mr. Erdogan a thief. He's grabbing 20 miles along a long, long border cut by the Euphrates in Turkey and Syria. Who exactly this morning is supporting the leader from Damascus? Who is Mr. Assad's ally?
Mr. Ally's biggest ally in the war is clearly Russia. Now, having said that, we are seeing a gradual shift in the political rhetoric in Turkey, led by President Erdogan, towards the central government in Damascus. For the first time in a very long time, as far as I can remember, the president has refrained from publicly rejecting any possibility of any talks with the central government last week when he met with reporters from foreign press, including myself. So this is clearly a process that is taking place. It's a gradual one, and surely Russian President Vladimir Putin is helping the Turkish government to sort of to manage this transition, manage this to make this process as gradual as possible by not pushing a direct dialogue with the regime in Damascus as sort of the first precondition in his talks with Erdogan. But it is definitely taking place. So it looks more and more like Turkey is less of an enemy to Assad than it was ever before in the last 8 years.